Good morning, Vietnam. Is that still appropriate, Dakota?
Was it ever, or were we just
That's true.
blind?
Here, let's try that again. No, that's offensive. Hey, welcome. Glad you could make it to the new episode of Dakota Boys Talk Movies. We promise this episode will be a little more entertaining and enlightening than us trying to not start a show offensively so we don't get canceled. But
yeah, that's right, man. The mob's out there with their pitchforks.
Can you cancel something that really hasn't taken off yet? I'd say we're still a plane getting off the runway, so maybe we're safe, Dakota.
Oh, I thought we were still struggling to assemble the engine. Like, what was that?
I feel like it takes a good 10 years to get that plane going and off the ground. So
What was a Dennis Quaid movie, The Flight of the Phoenix? Where
I
think we're still just standing around in the desert at this point. Like, what are we gonna do?
Call me an old soul, but I still think of the Jimmy Stewart, Richard Attenborough version. So
see, I saw that once,
directed by John Huston.
Really?
Pretty sure he did that movie.
Why, Mr. Duncan? Sorry. I do a terrible John Huston accent.
Yeah, and I'm guessing while they were there filming in the desert, he punched at least a few people out at the local bar.
Actually watched him in Chinatown not too long ago. Man, that was a bleak movie. It was bleak.
Oh, well, today we're going to talk about a movie that, I don't know. Would you consider it bleak? Probably not.
I actually thought it was a nice little adventure film.
I thought so too.
We talking Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull?
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
I don't know what else we would talk about.
Everyone's least of I was trying to spin it in a positive light, but I don't know if there's any way you could spin that movie in a positive light.
You can try. Oh man, am I way off?
John Hurt was good in that movie, I guess.
I'm not seeing John Huston as the director of Flight. I did forget though that he did The Man Who Would Be King. We should review that one sometime, Dakota.
Yes, we shall.
No, today we're actually talking about Tomb Raider, but not the 2002 one. Not that one.
AKA Boob Raider.
Yeah, not the one with Angelina Jolie where really the only reason she got the role was probably because she had big lips and big other parts.
Star power?
Star power. Well, she didn't. That kind of was what gave her star power. Because before that, she was just that crazy woman who
she
was always making out with Billy Bob Thornton on carpets. On carpets. Red carpet. There we go. It's like,
I think that she would have had Gia under her belt, so she at least had something. It's not like Tom Holland where he literally came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Although, if you want to see something kind of unsettling,
I do more than anything.
Look at a picture of Tom Holland when he's 15. He looks like a 9-year-old boy. It's what?
I feel like I kind of know what he looks like because I remember I watched The Impossible when that movie came out, and I think when he made that movie, he was like 13 in real life, and I think it's about what he was playing in the movie. And I feel like he's really only physically aged about 3 years since then, even though it's been probably 10 years at this point or something. But
I think the first thing I saw him was in Heart of the Sea, that movie that was about the incident that inspired Moby Dick.
Which I just read the book. I haven't seen that movie, but I just read the book that's based off of. That is an excellent book. The Tragedy of the Whale Ship Essex.
Tragedy.
Very much a tragedy.
Some would argue they had it coming.
Well, and that is what's interesting about the book is that the first mate, which I think in the movie's probably who Chris Hemsworth plays, I would guess, because he's probably one of the main people. Yeah, it's probably who Hemsworth plays, the first mate. Yeah, like his whole thought process, like after it happens, is like, well, we burned an island to the ground, and he was like thinking about just how awful of people they were and how it's like, is this God punishing us? That really was going through his head. And so, and for the record, I'd just like to say the original Flight of the Thieves was directed by Robert Aldrich, who directed Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and The Dirty Dozen and things like that. So we'll just clear that up.
There's a movie I always thought that Hollywood would try to remake, The Dirty Dozen.
Yeah, they kind of have, but they just haven't made it a World War II movie and called it Dirty Dozen. They've kind of just tried those other kind of groupie movies. Yeah, well, this Tomb Raider came out in 2018, I want to say, and stars Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft, and they did something that a lot of video games movies don't usually do, and it's based the movie off of what they're doing in the new video games. Because usually it seems like when these video games movies come out, they go back to how the video games originally started. Whereas in this one, they kind of used the new version of Lara Croft, and that was probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Where she's kind of more of it's kind of more of like primitive survival is what it ends up being a lot more in this movie, and it's kind of her like becoming the Tomb Raider, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's basically Tomb Raider Begins, and
right.
What I find the most intriguing part is this is kind of a thing that's gotten in cinemas now, where it's like these people who find themselves in these adventures, they rise to the challenge, and they're like, they get into a fist fight, and they're throwing like perfectly thrown jabs and everything, and man, when she starts out, when she gets on this island, she is really struggling.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was actually intriguing because
yeah, and what helps is that she should be struggling because it's a new environment, but you also know that she's gonna have some strength and gumption to at least have a good old fashioned try and possible success of getting through some of it, because she's set up as someone who is tenacious and is trying to learn how to be like an MMA fighter and is very competitive and stuff. In fact, there's a scene near the beginning when she's doing like that fighting in the ring, and she's got like a 6-pack.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then it was like I was having trouble like comprehending just how she did look really fierce. And then I found out that wasn't CGI. Like that was real. Like she got in like crazy good shape for this movie. I think to its benefit, where they got someone who's a good actress to also get into really good shape, because she's probably who helped this movie be a lot more believable, and because she's a good actress, you cared about her the whole time. I think that probably helped a lot. Because I feel like when you watch the original Tomb Raiders, she's always just smiling her way through everything and feels like she never gets dirty, even though she's jumping through like the filthiest places on the planet, and it's just like, I don't know. She was like so carefree. You're just like, she would be dead,
Well, with those first two movies, it was almost like they were just trying to do, and don't get me wrong, they were based off video games from the time, but it was almost like they were trying to, in a way, mimic what the James Bond movies from that time period were going through.
Yeah, maybe.
Or that
she was almost a little more Roger Moore, I would say.
Yeah. But I mean, like seemed like she was globe hopping, and she had all the gadgets, and it just I think one of the reasons I didn't really like those original ones is the action just seemed a little too overdone.
Yeah.
But yeah, enough about the
yeah, about those. Yeah, this one though, it still has the classic Lara Croft thing where there's still this old mystery, kind of a mystery within her own family. Because isn't that kind of a Laura Croft thing with her like relationship with her dad and kind of the things with that? They still kind of obviously do a lot with that in this movie.
Yeah.
And God, I always want to say his name wrong. Who plays the dad? Dominic West?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I always feel like after I say his last name, I'm like, that's not his last name. It's something different. I don't know why. Like, it doesn't feel like it's just West. But we were kind of talking earlier about how it was a little jarring for us. Maybe it just makes us feel old that he's now playing a dad to a woman in her 20s. Where it's like, man, how old is he? I mean, I guess The Wire was like, what, 30 years ago now or something?
Oh, good Lord.
Um,
Nobody really looked young and full of life in that show. So I was just thinking of him in 300 when, I don't know, like, was he just in crazy great shape and they just like throw on this toga, or I don't know, weird kind of.
I forgot he's in 300.
Yeah, weird.
Man, like everybody's in that.
Weird kind of way, weird sidebar, but yeah, he's just. Because, like, man, like, even though he doesn't do anything, he looks like he's in great shape.
Yeah, you kind of follow her on this mystery of ending up trying to find her way to get to this island that's basically impossible to get to. But like any movie like this, it's going to be possible somehow. They're going to figure out a way. But, man, that was pretty harrowing. Like when they're trying to get to that island, and it's basically like, yeah, like whatever is the deal with this island, the weather around it or supernatural, whatever you want to believe it was at the time of when you're watching this movie, it's like, well, this ship isn't going to last. And the whole time you're just like, oh man, it's like, she's got to live, I guess, because she's Laura Croft, but is anybody else? Because, I mean, they're just getting beaten in that storm. And then there's just like wrecked ships everywhere.
Yeah, that was visually actually pretty interesting, I thought.
Yeah, I thought that for like a scene like, I mean, I guess that scene was just really well done. It was just really intense and just kind of threw you in. Actually, I thought like every scene that was meant to be intense, I thought did kind of was well done in this movie. But anyway, they do end up getting this island where she finds out her dad years before had basically ditched the family in her mind to try to find, and then disappeared / died. And so she ends up finding her way there, partially because of a message she found in her dad's stuff in his little secret lair, so to speak. And yeah, I don't know, Dakota. What would you call this island? She gets there and there's these people there, and it's basically like a secret slave camp, I guess.
Yeah, it's
It's like Skull Island if it didn't have any monsters and was just full of slaves.
yeah, it's oh man, I'm not really sure what's they're oh, I'm trying to remember what they're really having these people do, but it's they're looking for like this tomb, and
they're trying to find this tomb, and the bad guy on the island is played by Walton Goggins. In the whole time he's introduced, I keep waiting for him to be classic Wally Goggs and just like kind of get a little, like he always has like kind of a wacky edge or something to him, and he plays this so straight and so like low key, like bad guy that almost put me more on edge, because the fact that he wasn't kind of like snapping into like, I hate to call him wacky, but he kind of there's like this Walton Goggins to him that he has, which makes sense because that's his name. Where a lot of times when he's in roles like this, he kind of like all of a sudden will just scream something or be kind of silly, I guess. But this was just like he played it so straight and so serious that it was almost more unnerving.
yeah, and it's weird because I'm just gonna kind of throw this guy's name out there, like in some of Jack Nicholson's roles when he's like he just does like this look where you know he's unhinged.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Is like you can tell that he just could just snap at any minute. But even when he does snap a few times, it's so controlled that it's disturbing.
Yeah, it's like it's almost in a way like he just kind of showed up and is like, okay, I'm gonna play it just really really low key for this
Yeah.
entire movie.
And I think part of it is why it works with who he's playing, because he's basically playing a guy who works like he's in charge, but he's not. Like he's in charge on the island where all these shipwrecked people end up there. He just makes them his slaves to try to find this tomb because he's not allowed to leave the island until he finds this tomb. And so he's kind of the boss here, but he has a boss that he's withholding to, withholden to, and it's like he's basically losing his mind because he's stuck on this island, but at the same time he seems to enjoy being in charge. And so it's like there's like this whole swirling psychoness going on with him. And it's like he does a really good job of just kind of being kind of like a controlled unhinged, I guess would be a way to put it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I forget how many years he said he's been stuck there, but I was expecting him to be more kind of just a typical Walton Goggins.
Yeah, and that's the thing you're kind of expecting, and then I ended up just being kind of pleasantly surprised. But yeah, it's like he wants off this island because he has like 2 daughters. I think he says that he's like I haven't seen in like years. Basically, by the time he gets home,
I think we're just supposed to assume he's been on there as long as her dad's been missing.
yeah, because he's aware of her dad. You know, he's like, yeah, I remember when he came here or whatever. You know, and so it's it's been, God, what was she I think she was a teenager when her dad left, and so I think it was supposed to be at least 7 years. It was like at least 7 years or something, and so yeah, Wally Goggs has been there a little while. And yeah, it's kind of one of those things where I guess even though this island seems hard to get to, supplies are dropped in. I guess I don't.
Yeah,
That part I was having trouble kind of figuring out how that worked.
yeah, they I don't know what you want to call it, but he just whoever he's working for, like there's kind of a corporation that's backing them, and it's dropping supplies into them, keeping them going,
Yeah,
and it's I don't know. I think that's really the only kind of weak part in this whole story.
yeah.
Is like like how do they? Did he have a radio? I don't remember.
He had a satellite phone.
Oh yeah,
because he was talking on that like when she first got there. So he reaches out to them with like this satellite phone, but yeah, it's still like how are they so able to get things is kind of where it kind of like that part was like the hardest part to kind of wrap my head around, I guess. But yeah, the reason that all these people are there is like it's this island off Japan, and this tomb they're trying to find has this like ancient witch, I guess, is kind of like the story that you hear from her dad is like this ancient witch was buried there in a way where she was a plague on the world, and so she's contained in this place. And her dad was like obsessed with finding this place, and then this corporation wants it, and you're like, why does this corporation want to unleash basically a hell on earth type situation? You know, and so you got a couple mysteries going on where Laura's trying to understand the disappearance of her father through this place, and then also this corporation is involved in trying to get into the tomb of this kind of ancient witch tomb. And then it becomes like this survivalist thriller because of what Laura goes through. And so it does end up making it kind of a beginning to end. Really, it's a movie that moves, which I think that just helps it too. I think this movie just had a lot of things going for it where I would probably just put it high on my list of probably one of the better video game movies. I'm trying to think, like, out of the video game movies, I don't know, Dakota, is there, like, this is probably one of the best?
yeah.
I mean, some people would argue the bar is low.
Yeah, so low it's basically laying on the ground. But no, a lot of actual talent and thought went through this movie, and that's what kind of surprised me because um, they really couldn't, or they could have just not really cared as much and just like whip something together really quickly and
Yeah.
Tomb Raider movie, and it could have just been like I, I I hate to name names again, but like the Hellboy we got not too long ago, where it seemed like they were so busy trying to get it made, no one was thinking about really the story or
Yeah, I feel like that had a couple things going against it. That Hellboy movie was that, yeah, I think they just wanted to get one made while people were still excited about a Hellboy movie. And I feel like it just had the wrong director. Like, because I think Neil Marshall did have a, did care in a sense, but he cared about all the wrong things. And yeah, with this one, yeah, it did just feel like it did have a lot more like kind of care put into it. And then it was directed by this guy named, I don't even know how you say his name, honestly, Roar Uthog. But he's a Norwegian director who actually made another movie I remember seeing a few years ago called The Wave. That was actually a Norwegian movie, and I think it was supposedly based on true events about a giant wave that hits Norway.
oh
And so yeah, they got a guy who, yeah, he seemed to be excited about the character on some of the things I kind of went and looked at with him, and then was just a guy who kind of understood, yeah, the movie he wanted to make. And they still did a lot of like, especially if you've played the newer games, there were a few scenes they did with like that wrecked plane and stuff that were really homages to scenes that are in the new Tomb Raider game. And so I'm sure that was fun if you were one who played those games. Which I just didn't, not because I didn't want to, but just because I just didn't. I don't probably have the system therefore because I'm more of a retro gamer, to be honest, and so that's just kind of the way it is. But did you play the new Tomb Raider games?
I did not, unfortunately. I did play the older ones though.
The really clunky, boxy ones?
Yeah.
It's funny to
Um,
think back on how those were such a big, groundbreaking deal and how just boxy they were.
Well, I mean, it goes back to saw a meme not too long ago where it was like a little snippet from Saving Private Ryan, and the headline, the text said, "What we think the game was like that we played when we were kids," and then it shows like just this terrible clip from, I think it's the Medal of Honor game where you stormed the Omaha beach, and it was supposed to be like
Oh,
it was supposed to. They took it right out of Saving Private Ryan and tried to. But back then, like we all thought it was
yeah.
amazing, and it looks terrible by today's standards. It's
Yeah, it seems a little clunky. Well, I even think that way, like, even when you look at, like, Call of Duty World at War, that wasn't even as many years ago. That was maybe, like, what, 2010 or I don't know.
yeah,
And, like, that game was traumatizing. The way they had the Japanese just rush out of bushes at you and stuff. And now it's like, probably when you think about it, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe not all the graphics were that great, but yet it was still traumatizing.
yeah. Interestingly, you may not know about this, but with the latest Star Wars Battlefront, there actually was a mission where it was the stormtroopers against the Ewoks.
Oh, really?
And it is low key kind of terrifying because they're literally coming out of everywhere at you.
Oh, the Ewoks.
They're swarming you, coming out of the trees, coming out of the shrubs.
They are
They're-
kind of like furry little orcs, though, when you think about it, where they just come flying out of everywhere. So,
And there's a video out there of a guy playing it, and he's just screaming because,
just little teddy bears are just like mauling him to death.
yeah. And I'm like, this does bring up how that situation was so horrifying for
Well,
them.
And that's the thing when you think about it, is it's like they would be screaming because they know if they get caught by the Ewoks, they're probably going to get eaten. And probably, I mean, it's not going to be pleasant. Oh, man. But yeah, back to this. I don't know. I don't have too much more to say. I think it's a really tight, good, if you just want like a really good action movie. I mean, I don't even think this is one of those things where it's like you don't even have to be nerdy or have a video game love to like this movie because it's just a really good kind of action movie for what it is. And I think it still has, even though it's like maybe like a more serious, darker tone than like the predecessors, I think it still is fun. I think it still has like a funness in it. And so yeah, I don't know. I just think overall it's pretty solid movie.
Yeah.
Kind of hoping they still do the sequel they're kind of talking about.
Oh, I really hope. It's one of those things where if they don't get the ball rolling on it soon, we might never get one, and that'd be a shame because I thought this kind of set the groundwork pretty solidly. I did say it was Tomb Raider Begins, and it did kind of remind me of Batman Begins in a way where it's like, man, the groundwork was laid just so strongly, there was nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. It's like you said, yeah, if they're just in terms of people wanting it, and in terms of just Alicia Vikander still playing the role, yeah, it's like in the next year they're gonna have to make a pretty solid announcement that they're gonna start working on it, or it's probably gonna get harder and harder to really get it done.
Yeah.
I mean, and granted, this was only 2018, and so I mean, we're only like 3 years out. But when you make an announcement for a movie, that means 2 more years till it's really done and out. And then Lord knows if we'll have another pandemic. Because are we ever gonna have a Black Widow movie? I mean, is that ever gonna come out? Who knows? Like
we were asking that before the movie was even made, Steven.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I just recall what I just heard Mr. Sunday Movie joking about. He's like, I just kind of want the Black Widow movie to come out. He's like, I'm not even excited anymore. I just want it to come out so that we can move on with the other things, because the other things can't happen until this movie happens. And so,
it almost seems like we'll see the supposed Doctor Strange movie that's supposed to come out in 2 years or whatever it is before we see that Black Widow movie.
I don't know. Yeah, I know at this point it's like I feel like we're gonna. Another thing Dakota and I were just talking about earlier. It's like I feel like we could see a Booster Gold movie come out before this Black Widow movie that's done and in the can is gonna come out. But
maybe we'll actually see one of the 100 Game of Thrones prequels made before this movie, before Black Widow comes out.
But Dakota, just to put maybe a nice little cap on this. First off, how from 1 to 5 PS1 controllers. We got to use PS1 controllers because I mean that's just the iconic shape of it and everything. Go back to those boxy Tomb Raider days. How many PS1 controllers would you give it?
Ooh, I don't know. We're talking PS1 controllers, so
those are easy to split in half too. You give it like so many and a half star or controllers.
I would probably go 3.5.
3.5. Yeah. I think, man, I hate this because I feel like we just did a box set television one not that long ago, and we had the same score, but that's about where I was too. It was like 3.5. Just because this is just a really solid movie. But to kind of put a cap on this, what is a video game that you would like to see a good movie made out of? Like, is there one that you're kind of like, oh, I wish they would make a movie of this. I think this would make a good movie.
I'm going to throw this out there. I just now remembered that I was almost going to say Assassin's Creed. Then I remembered they did make a movie of that.
That's funny because as you were saying, I was going to say Assassin's Creed. In my head, I was going, oh, that's a good idea. And then it's like, wait, they did that. In a way, you could still, I would still give you that one. Maybe you could say a good Assassin's Creed.
Oh. You know what's funny about that movie? Somebody bought it for me, and I ordered the Jurassic Park movie from Target online. They sent it to me, and it came with the security thing on there.
Oh, it still had like the
plastic
cover thing?
Yeah, where you have to unlock it, and I was so mad, I just took a hammer. Those things are more indestructible than I thought.
Yeah, they don't want you to want to try to steal them. So yeah, I suppose they're like just shy of bulletproof, huh?
Well, Target, good on you, because I think I hit that thing almost 100 times.
See, probably what I would have done is
Don't you say it. Don't you say it. I know what you're gonna say.
I don't know if you know what I'm going to say. I would take a drill
Oh, okay.
and I would probably just punch a bunch of holes really close together because usually there's a little room at the top,
Yeah.
and then just try to get a hacksaw going.
The girlfriend I had at the time was just take it to Target and explain to her what happened.
Oh, but I wouldn't do that. You know what's funny is that does feel like the right answer in a world where people would believe anything you say.
Right.
But I would be too terrified they would think I shoplifted.
Yeah, and I was like, no, I'll take this to him, and then they'll be like, we trying to make off with this
Yeah.
movie kid.
I
Even
would,
though-
yeah, you'd take it there. They'd keep the movie, and you'd go to jail.
But I probably put more time and energy and effort into cracking this thing open than I should have. And unfortunately,
Because Assassin's Creed was inside.
no, it was the Jurassic Park movie.
Oh,
but-
that's worth it.
And then
Oh wait, which Jurassic Park?
the first one.
Oh, it's worth it.
And I kind of damaged the spine of it a little bit, like it was cracked. And I could have just put it on my shelf with all my other movies. But I was like, this is going to bother me when I'm laying in bed at 3
All you
a.m.
can think about is a cracked spine.
So I rummaged through all my Blu-rays. I'm like, which one of you can be the sacrificial lamb? And I reached for The Shape of Water. Then I was like, wait a minute, I have a better candidate. I grabbed the Assassin's Creed, threw the kind of little sleeve that had all the information on it, threw that away along with the DVD, the Blu-ray.
See you, Marion Cotillard.
And yeah, so yeah, that's what became of that. The Shape of Water lived another day, I guess.
Oh, is The Shape of Water still alive on your shelf?
No, unfortunately.
Oh man. Well, so what video game? I almost forgot what we were talking about.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna do the short answer. The first Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be a good one. You know, it's funny because I almost said the same thing. Like, I was going to say I would like to see a Mario movie, and then I have to remind myself that a Mario movie has already happened too. But has a Mario movie already happened? Because there was nothing Mario about that movie,
I don't know what
except their names were Mario and Luigi.
Well, not just that, but their last names were Mario too.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I try not to remember too much information about that movie. Oh. You know, my problem is I just don't play a lot of the big storyline games probably as much. That's probably why I do think of Mario.
I thought you'd honestly go for Legend of Zelda over anything
Yeah,
else.
and I think, and that's what I was going to say is probably since Mario's kind of happened and it sounds like it's gonna happen, like they're like Illumination Entertainment's working on a Mario movie,
Ooh.
supposedly. So yeah, I think I will go with Legend of Zelda. And I don't know what I would want that to be. If I'd want it to be live action or some sort of kind of CGI, i.e., how Final Fantasy was. You know, that Spirits Within movie?
Oh, yes.
Like, I mean, obviously technology's gotten better, so it could look better. But if you made a Zelda in the vein of that, but with the technology we have now, that could be kind of neat too. And they could even maybe motion capture.
Yeah.
Maybe a motion capture Zelda. I'm gonna say that motion capture Zelda.
So kind of like that Beowulf movie from.
Yeah, but again,
Years ago.
I would not. I wouldn't hire Image Movers, Robert Zemeckis' company, because I feel like all of his motion capture people have such dead, lifeless eyes. It gives me nightmares. And one of them was a kids movie, Polar Express. The only one of those of his that he's done I really am okay with is his Jim Carrey Christmas Carol. Is I think that one's all right, but otherwise there's so many just dead, lifeless eyes. But so yeah, if there was a way to do a mocap Legend of Zelda where no one had dead, lifeless eyes, I'm on board. But I think with that, we'll bring this one to a close. So we do encourage you to check out Tomb Raider if you haven't. It was one that I just finally got around to watching just in the past, 6 months. You know, that's kind of thing. The reason we're reviewing this is during this pandemic time, you kind of catch up on movies you missed a little bit. And then Dakota, when did you see it? More when it was new?
I believe it was shortly after it had come out on DVD. I may have just rented it.
Yeah, it was one of those that just kind of breezed by me when it was new, and I just missed it. And then I just happened to finally get around to watching it. And I'm like, man, that was really good. I can't believe more people weren't talking about this. And I'm still kind of surprised, that there hasn't been more of an announcement on a sequel. So yeah, that was definitely a fun one to watch. And with that, I just want to say we hope you have subscribed to us in one of the places that you can subscribe to us at. Whether it's YouTube or iTunes or wherever, Stitcher, any of those places. My understanding is, I haven't checked this in a while, but I know you used to be able to even tell your Alexa to play the Dakota Boys Talk Movies, and I think she'll just start playing the latest episode. I know I tried it at one point. It does work, so you could even try that and listen to us on your Alexa. Just anyway. But yeah, then we're also on Facebook, where we're always putting up movie news here and there, but then also just a lot of dumb memes using movie moments. We enjoy those. So yeah, we hope you just take advantage of that too, and we will catch you on the flippity flip, i.e. the next episode. This is Steven.
This is Dakota.
See you later.